Hello my dear sewing friends, it's Elisa here with Thoughtful Creativity. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm truly happy to see your beautiful smiling faces. And today we're continuing the topic of different necklines for your knit garments. So we started with a round neck, which is the classic. Then we went for a V-neck, which is also very popular. And today we're going to take a look at how to build the turtleneck, which is very season appropriate right now, and it's a perfect option for colder time of the year. Plus, it's very stylish, never goes out of fashion. As always, along the way, I'll give you some little tips and tricks from my own experience. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. For step number one, what we need to do is we need to go ahead and grab the pattern that you're going to be working with. For me, that's going to be knit bodice block. For you, it can be any pattern for a sweater or for a tunic or for whatever else that you would like to then transform into a turtleneck neckline. So go ahead and grab that, and let's transfer that pattern onto a new piece of paper. Alright, now that that is done, we need to go ahead and adjust the neckline. So the pattern that you just copied on a new piece of paper, that pattern might have a boat neckline, it might have a round neckline, V-neck, it might have a plunging neckline. Whatever is that neckline, we need to go ahead and transform that neckline, which will usually include building back part of the shoulder and really making a super tight neckline around your neck, because that's how turtleneck is going to be formed. So what I usually do is I take my measuring tape and I measure my neck, the circumference of my neck, like so. There we go. Once you have that measurement, go ahead and take it away. Now we're going to divide that measurement by 6, and we're going to add about 1/4 of an inch, maybe 1/8 of an inch, some cases 1/2 an inch, depending on how much extra ease you want. Remember, with a neckline, you can always cut away, not the other way around. So if you're not sure and you're just doing your test garment to see if you like turtlenecks or not, or what would be the best fit, I would suggest starting smaller, and then of course you can cut away and expand. So we took the circumference of our neck, then we divided that number by 6, and then we added a tiny bit of ease to it, 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, 1/2 an inch, depending on how tight you want your turtleneck to be around your neck. For me, that's going to be around 2.5 inches or 6.5 centimeters, around that number. I want to start working with the back part of my pattern. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure 2.5 inches. So from right over here, I'm going to measure 2.5 inches. Since this is my knit bodice block, it actually does measure 2.5 inches right over here, because if I take a perpendicular line up, it's 2.5 inches like that. Now I do want to make it a little bit deeper. Let's say another 1/2 an inch deeper. So I'm just going to deepen the neckline just a tiny bit for the back. There we go. That's going to be my new neckline for the back. Now for the front, it needs to be 2.5 inches in the width and 2.5 inches in the depth as well. So what we're doing is we're going to take a look. It's supposed to be 2.5 inches right over here, which it is. And over here, 2.5 inches is right over here. So you see the neckline is definitely deeper than I want it to be. So let's say your neckline is a boat neckline. So let's say it goes something like this, and you only have this bit of a shoulder to work with. What you want is you need to build back some of that shoulder in order to create a more narrow neckline. So what you do is you take a ruler, you place it on a shoulder that you have, for example, this bit right over here. So you have just a tiny bit of shoulder right over here. And then you continue the shoulder up, just like I have right over here in red. And then what you want to do is, let's say we're going to take the same 2.5 inches. You want to take 2.5 inches and you want to slide it down until it crosses the new shoulder line that you just extended. So you want to take 2.5 inches from up here or up here, whichever way, and you just slide, aha, 2.5 inches right over here, it crosses. So now this is your new shoulder line, and this is your new half of the width of your neckline. All right, back to my neckline. So this is going to be the width, this is going to be the depth, and now we need to connect them. So a lot of times, to make it easier, you can build a little box. So 2.5 inches this way, 2.5 inches this way, and then you build a little box, and then you make a beautiful neckline like so. There we go. It's 2.5 inches right over here. And then of course we need to build back this little bit right over here as well. So whatever is in black is the new neckline, whatever is in red was the old stuff. Now to make it more visual, I'm going to cut some of this stuff away. Now here's a very important part. Whichever shoulder seam you're building back, the front or the back, you need to make sure that you do the same adjustments for the other part of the pattern as well, because the shoulder seam on the back needs to match the shoulder seam on the front. So just make sure that you double check whatever is that length to make sure that these indeed match. Otherwise you will have a pattern where one shoulder seam is longer and the other one is shorter. So just make sure that if you're adjusting one, you are adjusting the other one as well. Now I'm going to be working on a turtleneck that sits quite close to my neck. Of course, it all depends on your preference and what style you're going for. So you can follow my steps, and after that you can adjust wider or narrower depending on your liking and on your preference. Alright, now that the neckline is done, now we need to cut the actual turtleneck. Now if you remember from the round neck tutorial and from the V-neck tutorial, we took the length of the actual neckband a little bit shorter so that way it would lay flat. Now in this case for turtlenecks, I don't do that. Therefore, what we need to do is we need to take measuring tape. We're going to measure the front neckline and the back neckline. We're going to sum them together, and that is going to be the total length of the actual turtleneck that we're going to sew into our neckline. Alright, so now we have the back neckline, the front neckline. I've already marked the actual length of those necklines, but what you're going to do is you're going to take your measuring tape, you're going to place it on the rib like this, on the edge, and then you're going to measure one, and then you're going to measure the other one as well, and then you're going to record those measurements right over here. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take a new piece of paper. We're going to sum these two together, so 3 plus 3 and 7/8 is going to be 6 and 7/8. Remember, because this is just half of the back and half of the front, this is going to be half of the actual width that we need. So let's do another 6 and 7/8. So this is going to be the total measurement that we will need. So this plus this multiplied by 2, and this is what you get right over here. Now here's an extra tip. When you're working on a turtleneck, the amount of stretch on your fabric plays a huge role whether you will be able to pull that turtleneck over your head or not, because obviously the circumference of your head is larger than the circumference of your neck. So you want to make sure that you have quite a bit of stretch in your fabric before you start working on your turtleneck. To double check, you can always take a strip of fabric that you're going to be using for the turtleneck. You can always cut it to the length of the turtleneck that is going to be around your neck, and then you can sew the short ends. Then you can try to put it on over your head to see whether the fabric stretches appropriately to be able to get it over your head or not. Now here comes an interesting part. We need to determine the height of our turtleneck, and here we need to take in consideration how you want to wear your turtleneck. Do you want to wear it like so, or would you like to fold it over something like this, and how tall you want it to be after you fold it over. So what I like to do is I like to take measuring tape, and from the high point shoulder over here, you're going to measure up however tall you want your turtleneck to be. Then don't forget that we're going to be folding that fabric in half to begin with. Whether you want to fold it over or not, there's 2 layers of fabric right over here. So you want to multiply that amount by 2. And if you do want to roll your turtleneck over like this, you need to add an extra to account for that roll. So it does take just a tiny bit of math and a tiny bit of figuring out how long or how tall you want your turtleneck to be, but I know that you can totally do it, and here's 2 extra tips. Of course, you can make a sample turtleneck to determine what is the actual proportions and how you want your turtleneck to be, and you can also make your way to your closet, to your wardrobe. If you do have a turtleneck in there already, the one that you like, you can copy all of the measurements from there, or if you have the one that you don't like, you can also learn from the lessons of, okay, is the turtleneck too short, is it too wide, is it too of this or too of that, so that way you can determine, this is what I don't want, and that is also very helpful information in order to determine what is the best fit for you and how you would like your garment to look at the end. So here I'm going to do 5 inches right over here. Let's complete the rectangle. And this part right over here is going to be on fold, and the direction of the stretch is going to go this way. Alright, once all of these details are done, let's go ahead and cut our fabric. As a reminder, all of my tutorials and all of my videos, I don't use seam allowances added to the pattern, so I add them as I cut my fabric unless otherwise specified. So if you have followed with me along this tutorial and you prefer your seam allowances to be visible on the paper pattern, add them right now before you cut your fabric. As you can see right over here, my fabric is a little bit bigger than the actual pattern because I did add the seam allowances as I cut my fabric. Now the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to place this right sides together at the short ends, and we're going to sew the turtleneck together. So we have placed short ends right sides together, and we're going to sew this bit. For those who are interested, here I'm using a rayon lycra jersey net. So this is rayon lycra jersey net. It's nice, it stretches quite a bit. You can see on your screens. So this is a really great fabric for a turtleneck, and this turtleneck is going to be for my sister. She's about a size and a half smaller than I am, so in me it's going to be a tad bit tighter than I would normally make it for myself, but since this is not for me, this is going to be perfect for my sister. So here are a few final steps. I have constructed my turtleneck right over here, and on the neckline I made a notch at the center back and at the center front, so that way we know where to pin our actual turtleneck. Here we're going to do exactly the same. However, we don't need to make a notch at the center back because this is going to be the seam that's going to match with this center back notch. So what we're going to do is we're going to fold this turtleneck wrong sides together, so the seam is going to go against the seam like so, and then we're going to make a notch in the middle right over here. So we fold it in half, and right over here we make a little notch. This notch is going to correspond with this notch, and now we're going to sew it in. So what we're going to do is we're going to place this turtleneck the right sides together with our neckline, and we're going to align the center front notches first. Once we have aligned the center back notch with the center back seam and the center front notches of the turtleneck and the neckline, we're going to pin everything else together, and we're going to sew it in and around. If you're not sure, baste it in first and then sew it together. Since the actual width of the turtleneck and the width of the neckline are matching, there should be no problem pinning everything together. You don't have to stretch anything in place. Everything should match really well. So let's go ahead and sew it together. Alright, I have finished that. Here's my turtleneck. Here's how it looks from the back. Here's from the front. And this is how it looks on the inside. So of course I still need to tuck in the serger end. But yeah, this is how it looks on the inside. This is folded in half. There we go. Alright, the turtleneck is done. Now if you want to know how to make the round neck or the V-neck, I will leave the videos right over here so that way you can check them out, and I will also include some extra tips and tricks about how to sew with knits, so that will be helpful for you as well. Thank you so much for watching. I truly hope that this was helpful, that it inspired you, gave you that creative courage to truly make something stylish and modern for yourself. I will see you very soon in another video. Until next time, happy sewing! Bye!